episode 159, Chiropractic Radiologist DACBR, Should You Do It? I'm your host, Dr. Justin Trosclair, and today we're Dr. Cliff Tao's perspective. Join 2017 and 18 Podcast Awards nominated host and best-selling author on Amazon as we get a behind-the-curtain look at all types of doctor and guest specialties. Let's hear a doctor's perspective. Hello. Welcome back to a Doctor's Perspective podcast. Thanks for tuning in. A quick self-promotion. If you're looking to learn Spanish, Chinese, or even English for yourself or for your kids, most of your kids, the coloring books are live on Amazon. Check those out. It was a very fun passion project for me. It's animals, it's insects, it's water-based, it's mammals from Africa and Australia, etc. The holidays are coming up. Schools are online for a lot of people. This might be a fun way to have an activity for your youngin', as well as educational. All right, well, today on the show, we have a DACBR, the Diplomat of Chiropractic Board of Radiology, Dr. Cliff Tao. He is a chiropractor who decided to do another 3 years to learn all about x-rays, MRIs, CTs, etc. We're going to discuss things like, can you get a job at a hospital with this? What does the day-to-day look like? Potentially kind of fees that you can charge. He gives some fun stories about past jobs that he's had, advice on should you do it, should you not, what to expect, and even some marketing. A lot of radiologists are kind of introverted, so the thought of having to put yourself out there could be a little scary, but he gives us some good tips on that. By the way, if you listen to the minisodes, I think there's been a few good ones, especially episode 61, where we talk about the $1,000 challenge. If you haven't listened to it, take less than 10 minutes, check it out, and see if you can earn or save an extra $1,000 this month for investing. More details there. If you need any help practice-wise, coaching-wise, etc., let me know. DM me on Facebook, Instagram, or on the webpage on the top right is all the icons to reach out. Well, let's jump into the interview. All the show notes and transcript can be found at adoctorsperspective.net/159. Let's go. Hashtag behind the curtain. Live from Germany and California. Today on the show, we got a Canadian native who's pretty much been in California for forever. And he is a DACBR, which is like a chiropractor who decided they love x-rays and MRI and just went for another, 3 years and learned everything they could. So he'll be our first guest, Dr. Cliff Tao. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Justin. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. I'm excited. We haven't had a DACBR on the program before. And I saw you a long time ago, I guess at this point, forward 18. That's been a while.
Yep.
And good lecture, actually.
Thank you.
Everybody knows, MRIs and x-rays can be kind of boring, but he was able to present fun cases and really teach some of the things that we should look out for and sprinkled in some humor and things. So I really appreciate your teaching style. Okay. So we know chiropractic. We go to school for close to 4 years. Give us the background. What does it stand for? Why would you do it? Just kind of the nitty gritty of that. And then we'll get into some more fun aspects and some more fun questions. But first, let's just let the audience know, because they're not all chiropractors. What is a DACBR?
Sure. No problem. Could take some time. So let me know if I'm going too overboard. So,
okay.
So DACBR is DACBR. So officially it stands for Diplomat of the American Chiropractic Board of Radiology. And, we have a bunch of different diplomats, and they're all specialties, within chiropractic. So you could have sports medicine diplomats, neurology diplomats, as you know. Mine is in radiology. And just as a side joke, since you mentioned it might be a little bit lighter, when I first started my residency and I showed up on campus at LACC, and they said, "Hey, Cliff, do you know what DACBR stands for?" And I said, "Yeah, of course. Why would I not know what it stands for? It's, like I told you, Diplomat of the American Chiropractic Board of Radiology." And like, no, that's not. Sit down. This is what it stands for. It stands for don't adjust, can barely read. Like, oh gosh. All right.
And here we go.
Yeah, here we go. First day out of my 3 years. That's what they told me. Literally the first day. So I'm like, oh man, it's going to be a long 3 years. So yeah, it's kind of paints the picture of what most, not all, DACBRs are like. We are so entrenched and engulfed in this radiology industry that a lot of us don't adjust. Some of us do. I don't personally. My practice is all radiology, but there's some of us that kind of do a combined practice. They have a regular chiropractic practice with patients, but they do radiology at other times as well. So kind of gives you more options, I guess, when you get out there and practice, but very different options too. So actually, a friend of mine, Ben Stiles, he's a DACBR, and he did both for a while and did very well at both. And I think at one point he got sick and was almost a little bit, I wouldn't say disabled, but he just could not adjust or practice anymore, and he decided to just go full-time radiology. So it's nice to kind of have that backup. It's not that physically demanding to be a DACBR. We just sit or stand now. I have a stand-up desk, so we can stand and do our work. We can walk around a little bit, but we don't have to be doing a lot of manual.
You're not blowing
labor.
out a shoulder.
Yeah, unlikely to blow out a shoulder. So I like it just because it's different, and it came very, I don't want to say easy, but almost naturally to me. My dad is a medical radiologist. He practiced for, 40 years or something as a radiologist up in Ottawa, Canada. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if I was, born to be a radiologist and he never, so this is interesting. I thought, oh man, I don't know why I just kind of gravitate towards these x-rays. This was in college. I did a undergrad in kinesiology, and we had like a little bit of x-ray, like they'd show us an x-ray here or there. And I was like, oh, that is pretty cool. But I wasn't thinking of my dad. I asked him later, Justin, I said, hey, did you show me some x-rays or something when I was a baby? Or
yeah.
And he was like, no, you didn't do any of that. He was more of kind of a hands-off dad. But he wanted me to do whatever I felt was right, or what I enjoyed the most. He's like, it doesn't matter what it is. You can be a chiropractor, or you can be an accountant, or go into medicine if you want. But as long as that's something that you like and you enjoy, that you find great fulfillment in, then that's what you do.
That's good, Dad.
Yeah, of course it was my mom that was like, no, you're not going to be a chiropractor. You're going to be a doctor, real doctor, or you can be a lawyer.
Right.
But I was like, no. So yeah, I really gravitated towards the x-ray early on. I didn't know why. And then I went to chiropractic school more because I like sports medicine stuff. And I wasn't, at that point, I wasn't really sure if I could do radiology, and it was kind of so far off. I was like, I'm not going to medical school, so I guess I won't be a radiologist like my dad, but that was okay. Mm-hmm. And so I went into chiropractic school because I like sports medicine and athletes and, kind of getting optimal performance through sports and chiropractic and stuff like that. And then I realized that there were radiologists within chiropractic. And I was like, oh, man. So then I kind of looked into it, but for me, it was, harder than chiropractic school, but you almost, at least for me, I liked doing it. In my residency, I was like, my only job is I got to pass these board exams, and I want to not only pass, but I want to be, one of the better ones, or I want to actually know stuff that can help people in the end. So everything else was secondary, So.
And the things that you would look at are day-to-day life of a DACBR. Sends you X-rays, MRIs, everything's normal. Here's what I find. I don't want the liability for some reason to read my own X-rays, so I send them to you. What does a practice look like?
So for me, and we have different even within our tight DACBR community, we have very different practices. So my practice is definitely 99% or higher chiropractors. I have a couple medical facilities that will send me stuff, usually because there's also a chiropractor on staff, and probably about 90% is plain X-ray. And of all the X-rays, they're 70 to 80% spine. Mm-hmm. So a lot of spine X-rays, but we get other stuff too. We get a lot of spine MRIs and other things too. We have this new technology. Well, we have a lot of upper cervical guys in my practice, and they have their own CBCT machine. It's like a little mini CT that they have in their office. We do MRIs, and we kind of do some other, I call them weird things because I don't read them personally. For example, the other abdomen CT from a chiropractor that already, I get regular x-rays from him, but I think it was his business partner's wife or something, and she's had severe abdominal pain, and for some reason the report was real non-specific, and so her doctor wouldn't do anything because they said, well, it's just non-specific, it's probably benign, and just have to wait it out. And
classic.
And I said, I'll tell you what, I have a medical radiologist who will read it. And actually, I forgot that in medicine, they have to be licensed in the state where the imaging study was performed. And I forgot. So I kind of did an informal opinion with my medical radiologist, but I also sent it to my body guy. So body for radiology is everything outside of bones and joints. We call it body.
Okay.
I have a body DACBR up in Canada, Steve Kababa, and I sent it to him. I said, hey, this is, I gave him a little history, and he said, oh, yeah, that's, I don't know what it is, but it's this, or this. I said, okay. And then my medical radiologist was like, I can't give you a formal report, but I think it's this. And so I gave the guy both things, and he's like, you know what? Your DACBR was right. So they ended up having surgery, and they had to have it taken out. It was just increasing pain and a huge mass. And I mean, anyone could see this huge mass in the abdomen. You just had to say if it was benign or if it was something that was, they need to have surgery for. So because the DACBR my body DACBR said, oh, it could be these things. And one of these things is we don't know until you do some kind of further analysis. Then they went in and did the surgery and they took it out.
That's what I always thought was pretty cool when we were studying it in school was you couldn't really definitively say you have this, or this. But based on all the history, you can say, okay, it's probably one of these three things. Now your doctor can order these tests and find out which of the three it is. Thank you. Have a good day. And they're all cancer, so good luck.
Well, not all the time, but
it wasn't a fracture, guys. There was a growth. Yeah, this is more serious than just you can crack a back.
Yeah.
But
yeah, sometimes we can tell what it is, but a lot of times we're like, as radiologists, we don't rely as much on the clinical exam findings, either because we don't get it or because we only get a little snippet of it. Mm-hmm. We get what we need, and we have a different process. If you want us to kind of review the case, we charge differently for that. I'm like, yeah, if you want us to do a case review where we're looking at all the imaging and we're kind of compiling all this data together, non-imaging data, we can do that too, but it's going to be a little bit more expensive just because it takes more time.
A spine plain film is going to be a lot faster than 72 slides of the spine on an MRI too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. There's so much data out there actually, just in terms of how much time it takes for people to read these things, from start to finish. Before with just, when I started practicing, it was just plain x-ray, hard copy. I'd get everything in the mail. Oh. So it would take forever. All my mail went to a P.O. box, so I physically had to go to the post office, pick up the mail, go back to the office. Yeah, every single day, because I didn't know when stuff was coming in, and there are many days.
One day you could have 100 x-rays pop in, and you're like, all right, it's a busy afternoon.
Yeah, another day, nothing.
Yeah.
So now it's super easy. It comes on my computer. The time spent per x-rays is a lot less now just because it's digital.
You dictate everything anyway, don't you?
And now, I dictate everything. Voice dictation is so much easier and more affordable now too, and more accurate. So most of us dictate. That was one technology I was hesitant to kind of embrace just because I had I tried it early on. It just did not work well, and it was actually slower. So I'm like, oh, why would I do that? So,
what am I doing?
Yeah. Do you dictate your notes in practice?
No, we don't have that kind of clinic. We do the notes, but it's not like no. It's a short answer.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it's much better to dictate. It's not perfect, but it's definitely fast.
I dictated a book once.
You did?
Yeah, it's like a trick of the trade. Like you can see on my screen this black book about Chinese dinner.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to write all that down. I was like, I just need to get it out of my head. And so I had an outline and I just talked. And there's transcription services. So whatever it's free or like, $10 a month or something like that. So anyway, I got it and then just edited it and put things together and moved it around. And I was like, yeah, this is much faster than the previous ones. So it worked out good.
Oh, that's the Chinese business book I see in the back there.
Yeah.
So read it.
I'll have to send it to you. You work there, you learn a few things, and I was able to grab a job because of it. So I was like, you know what? I helped somebody, and I was like, you know what? If they can be helped, maybe I should just write this all down and while I was in the midst of it all. So it was fun. Passion project, as they call them. Okay. DACBR. It means something to you. It means something to me. But, and I don't want it to be offensive or anything like that, but we need to think of long term here. Do you get to work at hospitals? Do you get the respect of the medical doctors? Do they still look at you like, meh, you're still just a chiropractor. We don't need your help in real cases. What's kind of job outlook do you have with this?
Well, that's a good question, a real good question. And it's a question that I didn't even visit when I was looking to get into radiology. And just a quick snippet of how unprepared I was. I knew I wanted to do it because I knew I loved it and it would be, natural for me, like I mentioned earlier, but I did not look into job prospects. I mean, I knew you could teach, but, teaching to me is hard full time, especially. And I don't think that the pay is as good as private practice. So I always assumed I could get a job, but, the job prospects are actually not that great. I don't want to dissuade any chiropractors or chiropractic students who are looking into radiology, but I would encourage them to do their homework, unlike me. So you could get a job teaching full time. You could start a private practice. If you have good business sense, which I did not have, you could make it, but you really need to have good business sense. And I still don't think I have good business sense, but I think I'm okay now. I joke. I think it took me about 10 years to kind of to get things comfortable. I think it's pretty comfortable now.
Are there enough of y'all, or I guess I should say not enough, to where it's easy to get clients? Because now you're reliant on networking and hobnobbing with a bunch of chiropractors or whoever, so to send them to you, because I could send them anywhere now that it's digital. I guess I said licensing, but like down the street from where I worked, Terry Yoakum, the man who wrote the books, was down the street where I worked. I was like, sometimes I would just drive to him because it was quicker,
Yeah.
And it's like, why would I use anybody else? The man is right there. But,
right there.
I was like, he wrote the book, so obviously he's going to get more clients than a lot of people. But I just didn't even know, it's like any other business. You really got to get out there and stomp the pavements and really recruit people to send them to you, because so many don't even want to send them out regardless. They're like, no, I'm trained. I can do it. Why would I pay somebody else to do this?
Exactly. And so just to give you a little more perspective.
Yeah, please.
I heard there's about, in the U.S., maybe 30,000 chiros. So maybe in the world there's double that, or close to double. So maybe 50, 60,000 chiros. And DACBRs, there's about 350. And that's in the history of mankind, Justin.
Wow. Okay.
So there's not many of us around. I'm
so
number
there's plenty of opportunity.
Yeah, so there is a lot of potential opportunity. But, as you know, our profession has a wide variance of chiropractic. And in my radiology practice, I don't say no to anybody. If you're a chiropractor, you got x-rays or any imaging, we'll take it. We'll help you read it. I don't care why you took the x-rays. I don't care what kind of technique you use. And give you our opinion. And I think that's why maybe I've been able to attract some chiros that would not think of using a DACBR. To be honest, DACBRs, we've kind of had a bad rap. We're kind of this reclusive society. Most of us don't like to talk to people. And it's honestly, for some, it's why they went into radiology, so they wouldn't have to talk to patients all day.
Isn't that the stereotype of most radiologists? Like, hey, let's just go in the basement in a dark room.
In a dark room. And that's their, our comfort zone all day. And it's true that, I forgot to mention in your prior question about working in hospitals and stuff, what do the medical guys think of us? So I did after my residency, I did a 6-month fellowship at a hospital, UCI Medical Center, which is a local hospital, teaching hospital here. Wonderful experience, Justin. I just learned so many things, and everyone was very nice to me when I'm talking to them face to face, very welcoming. But I hear rumors after, I leave the room or turn the corner, then they'll talk a little bit about me, like, why am I here? Why, like, they think I'm trying to steal their business. I'm like, you don't understand how how unimpactful I am to you, you know?
Yeah.
So most of them seem...
I still got the questions right. I mean, that's what I would be like, well, he's getting the questions right. So I guess
Yeah.
maybe there's some knowledge there.
Yeah, so most of them are pretty nice about it. You know, once I frame it like, oh, you know, I'm not here to take radiology jobs away from you. I'm here to help my chiropractors because either, well, you know, back up a little bit further, you know, DACBRs kind of started because way back in the day, you know, no medical radiologists or most medical radiologists wouldn't touch chiropractors with a 10-foot pole.
That's true.
And so we had to come up with our own thing that was a little more ethical than us reading it ourselves, something that we didn't have to rely on the medical profession for. And thankfully did have some medical radiologists who could see our struggles, and they helped us. They taught the early DACBRs and said, oh, what this is what you do, and stuff like that. And that's how we got DACBR started. And now, you know, it's a little more friendly with the medical profession, okay. A lot more friendly. And so a lot of them want to use us because it's more income for them. A lot of them, you know, we still see the biases here and there, but okay. You know, not nearly as much as we did back in the 40s.
But at least there's a potential to maybe even get hired on in some kind of radiology practice when you're like, yeah, I can get you a bunch of spine films, and then you don't have the risk of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, there is potential. I'd say it's pretty rare. Most of us work just within the chiropractic world, and there's a few of us that work at larger radiology groups where there are like one or maybe two chiropractic radiologists out of a group of 10, 20 medical radiologists. So it is possible.
But you can work from your house though, right?
Yeah, so I work from home full time. I think a lot of DACBRs do that practice, especially now. It's
low overhead.
Yeah, very low overhead.
It's profitable.
You should never have a month where you're in the red, right? Because all I need is a nice computer and a couple little hardware things, and you're good to go. So it's easy to set up. Practice, I'd say it's a little harder, at least it was for me, to kind of convince chiros to send me their x-rays.
How does that work? Do you just charge cash and they just have to eat it, or you get to bill insurance for like reading it, or because you didn't take it? So right. How does all that work?
So in the US, if you bill insurance for x-ray, it's a global code, and the code includes taking and reading the x-ray. So a lot of my chiros are build insurance, the global code, and we could split it that way. Oh, you just build a technical component for taking the x-ray, and I'll build a professional, but the professional amount, first of all, is very small, and so
it's a joke regardless.
Yeah. And so I'm like, it's not even really worth my time to bill it out. And second of all, they build a global component. They're also looking at the x-ray. It's not like they're blindly sending me the x-ray. So for those reasons, we typically do a second opinion report, and we just build a doctor cash for it. And so, I let, you build the global component because you've taken the x-ray, you've kind of at least looked at it. So that's, the first opinion, even though there might not be documentation for it. And we'll provide our second opinion. You can copy our report if you want to and provide it as supporting documentation for your claim to the insurance company if you need to. I don't care, but that's typically how we do it. And the other part is that I believe, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of my chiros are cash only. So they just bill the patient whatever. And some of them don't bill the patients. Some bill the patient the same amount I charge them.
That's what I was going to say. Do they just pass the bill on? They're like, look, I charged $50 to take the x-ray. Old Cliffy there charges $40, so I make $10. Yeah. And I just give him all the money, and I don't charge the patient twice for the same film.
Yeah, some of them do that. Some of them charge a little more. Some of them charge a little bit less. Just
cover your cost and make some money.
Yeah. I mean, I know a guy that charged double. I'm like, that's a little more than I would expect, but
this ain't the 80s, buddy.
Yeah.
I mean, in Colorado, it was like $28 max, maybe 36 total. Total for an x-ray. I was like, this isn't even worth my time. Some of them were like, no, that's part of the exam. There's no extra fees. You can't get reimbursed.
Yeah.
This and that. And you're like, man.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, that's why whenever y'all would send them out, I was like, geesh, I got to lose money to send these things out. I better really need a second opinion.
Yeah.
You know?
That's crazy. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't know how it got so low. I think it used to be higher.
Yeah, it was massive. It was like a big profit generator for so many people.
Yeah, so
I hate to say it like that, but it was. It was everybody gets an X-ray, and hey, why not make $50 on it too?
yeah. During my fellowship at the hospital, some of the residents were like, yeah, back in the day, like they would get paid easy $80 per X-ray just to read it.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I don't know what happened because now it's single digits, maybe double digits if you're lucky.
Wow.
Yeah.
You really got to plow through these things.
Yeah, but in a hospital they do huge volumes, hundreds of X-rays a day, and I think that's how they can afford it. But even within radiology, X-ray is kind of known as you just got to do it, and you make your money off the MRIs and CTs and other imaging.
One of those words of wisdom I got from some seminars, they're like, anytime you get an MRI, always, or anything, just always read it yourself as well. Because if it came from a hospital and they saw 500 that day and it was residents reading some of them, like, you don't know if you can trust what was said. So they were like, just look at it. Maybe it's accurate, but maybe they missed something. And maybe you just need to give them a call. Be like, hey, could you do a second opinion on this? Maybe there's this thing going on.
Exactly.
Do you get that a lot, or?
A ton. And I think everyone knows they should look at these images, but so I consider my practice more of a second opinion practice. Yeah, and one of the things I say is, yeah, of course, look at the X-rays or MRI, any kind of imaging when you get it. Mm-hmm. Don't just rely on the report. And it's for that reason, you don't know who these people are reading it. And it, to be honest, there are companies out there, radiology groups that are shady. And
yeah.
And now with digital stuff, that study can go anywhere in the world, Justin. Full disclosure, I used to work for one of these companies, a little bit shady. I would read it, and then a medical radiologist would sign off on it. And so I'm like, well, it's a little bit shady. They pay us both for it, but not very much, by the way. But then what happened was they said, hey, Cliff, we're going to stop using you and these other DACBRs because we have another group that we're going to contract with. And I'm like, really? Why would you use and it was a medical radiology group. I'm like, why would you go, back to
Papua New Guinea?
Yeah. And I was like, well, what's the deal? And they're like, yeah, they're just, I think they're in the Philippines. And he said, they're just cheaper. To be honest, it's a business decision. I'm like, cheaper than what you're paying us? And
oh yeah,
can I talk about numbers or fees, or is that okay? Or
yeah, whatever you want. I didn't want to get in there because it's your thing, but yeah, you definitely can.
I don't care. So I think I was getting paid $4 or $5 to read each X-ray series, but I would get sometimes up to 100 X-rays a day. It was crazy. So I kind of felt like a medical radiologist because I couldn't do my normal report. I just had to get it out, and every report was like 1, 2, maybe 3 sentences, to make a reasonable amount of money. And they said, oh yeah, these new guys, I think, it sounds crazy now, but I'm pretty sure they said they're going to do it for $1 per X-ray. And I'm like, what? And they were nice to me. They said, I knew some of the people in the upper management, the admin office, and like, Cliff, if you want, you can take all the volume, it's about 1,000 X-rays a month or more, a couple thousand maybe, but you'd have to take it at $1 per X-ray study. I'm like, no thanks. I want, already at $4 or $5, that was my lowest quality work. I can't imagine going down $1 per study quality.
No way.
And that stuff happens, unbeknownst.
And they probably have templates computer to just click ABC. Yep, that's it.
Yeah, so it's terrible. Another way, even if you have, good, U.S. trained, whatever, radiologists that are in the U.S. and the study's not going overseas or wherever, these medical radiologists are busy, man. So busy, most of them. The industry is saturated, or actually undersaturated. They need more radiologists because of all the increased volume. Not now because of the coronavirus, but typically.
Well, and they don't want to educate them. That way they can keep their fees higher because there's not enough of them.
Yeah. So
it's a game.
Just to give you an idea of how much they read. So my comfortable range is about 40, maybe 50 X-rays or cases, kind of a maybe an MRI and CT in there somewhere. That's an 8-hour day and minimal breaks. A typical day, at least what I've seen with my medical radiologist friends, is about 200 a day. So it's 4 times as much as I do. And
wow.
Some of their x-rays are easier because they see more extremities, but some of them are very hard, right? They have more complex cases. And so they can't spend a lot of time reading these x-rays. And it's, at least in the US, it's not a great healthcare system. And that's one of the issues, is that there's just too much work for them to do. And the reimbursement is so low that they have to do it super fast.
And the reports aren't going to be detailed. It's like everything was normal. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
It's normal. Just put the normal stuff we have to put, but everyth's normal. So just get this out of here. Like, let somebody else deal with the paperwork. I'm not doing all that.
They would love normal studies all day long. They'd be finished early.
Well, I was in China working in a hospital, and they got paid better than the Philippines. But yeah, you could definitely see what they're willing to work for.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a no-brainer to them. If they got like $1 of film, it could very well be like, yeah, we're living good.
Really?
Like, maybe it's a little bit lower than we want, but we're going to have the volume.
Yeah.
So we'll have a good life.
Yeah.
And everything. Buy a car, buy a house.
Mm-hmm.
Kids can go to school. But I was having to read MRIs on everybody.
Oh, really?
Like every patient we got in there got an MRT. It was just their protocol. Oh, you got neck pain? Doesn't matter. Get an MRI.
Really?
You got low back pain? Doesn't matter. You're
MRI.
getting an MRI.
Oh.
I'm like, all we needed so many times is like, I just need an X-ray. There's no clinical need for the MRT or MRI.
Mm-hmm.
They call it an MRT in Germany, but sorry.
Oh, okay.
So they'd always get an MRI, and I'm like, why don't y'all just order what I asked? Of course, it was, money. But
Yeah.
So anyway, so it was like we'd always get them. And so I ended up having to take more classes as my continuing ed in MRI out of a place out of New York, because I was like, I am inept to really read these. I'd go on the report, I'm looking, and I'm like, this is axial. I guess that's a bulge. Yeah, okay, that one's obvious. Is it abutting the nerve? Maybe, I don't know. So I had to learn this stuff because it wasn't, you never see it in practice, and then finally you have to see it every day. I was like, all right, I got to get better at this.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, good for you for taking the extra time to do that.
So hats off to you guys.
It's good to learn a couple more things when we're out there, I think.
I think modic changes was my favorite. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know about you, if you like them or not, but I always thought that was a pretty cool finding. And you're like, okay, there's a little bit of clinical significance. And
Yeah. He was actually one of our speakers at our annual DACBR meeting several years ago, Michael T. Modic.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, we always have at least 1 or 2 medical radiologists come to our DACBR meetings. And I remember one funny thing he said, just kind of going along the same vein as you were talking about with MRIs. In medical radiology, they still use X-ray, but kind of the more advanced guys, they only read X-ray because they have to, because someone's telling them to read it, but they really love doing MRI more. And so when he was speaking to us, Justin, he's like, I think someone asked, what is the role of X-ray in his practice? How do they use it? What are the indications and whatever? He's like, spine X-ray? Yeah, we do it, but it's really just to make sure there's a spine there. And then we do MRI. Really?
We're missing a bone. That's a problem.
Oh, okay. But then in the end, they get an MRI anyway, whether there's a spine or not, right? It's just their mindset. They're like, X-ray, okay, yeah, normal spine, let's do MRI because whatever, they have pain or something.
Everybody had a bulge, or 2, or 3, arthritis. I mean, sometimes I'd see stuff and I was like, I'm supposed to treat this? What? I'm supposed to treat this. This thing looks like it's going to paralyze you. And
they're like, oh.
There were no other options. They had no other options. So, you just modify your technique, and then you start realizing like, wow, chiropractic is so powerful. I'm not whomping on everybody, of course, because, you got to use appropriate techniques and things. But I was really surprised to see what can respond and what was still safe after looking at an MRI, or like seeing stuff and you're like, you don't hurt? No. And you don't have any kind of sciatica? No. You're like, all right,
sure?
Well, good for you. Yeah, I was like, that's good for you, because you look like you'd be worst case.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. We don't have, especially with XR, we have virtually no correlation with clinical symptoms or how they present. MRI is a little bit better, but it's definitely not perfect.
Mm-mm.
All right. So, yeah, I get that question all the time. Like, what is this on the MRI or the X-ray?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. It's it's not normal, but, because you told me the patient virtually has no symptoms there, then you don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
Concentrate on whatever you want to do, and, they'll be fine. But don't focus on this one finding that looks like it's a tumor or whatever.
Do you have any marketing advice for someone that's in your position, but maybe just getting out, just graduating?
Yeah. I actually do at least for the past couple of years, I did like a little informal lunch and learn at our annual DACBR meeting. And so my disclaimer is this is just how I've done it. There's other ways to do this. To be honest, it took me 10 years to get here. So hopefully you won't have to wait that long. The biggest thing, and I know you've heard it and everyone's probably heard it, but I think it's true, is that relationships matter. And it was hard for me to accept it just because, like we mentioned earlier, DACBRs, we don't really form relationships easily since a lot of us don't, are in here because we don't like talking to people. But you got to talk to people. I mean, I think I am normally right on the border between intro and extrovert. So it's a little bit easier for me, but I would imagine most DACBRs are introverts, so it's kind of hard for them to get out there and, meet people. A lot easier now because there's social media and stuff like that. And that's, I would say, probably one of my big areas is just being active on Facebook and on LinkedIn. And more specifically, people still want to get to know you. So that groundwork of relationships still applies within social media. And, how do you get there? Well, you just be yourself, get into a conversation on Facebook within a group or just on some random post. And eventually people get to know you. Your
LinkedIn stuff's fun when you put the cases LinkedIn, sometimes. Those are fun.
Yeah. So that's, just to kind of make it look like I'm an expert. I don't like to really call myself an expert because there's so many of us out there, but at least, I don't know. I don't like coming off being real salesy. To be honest, I do those so I can get a little bit more business, but it's also, to help chiropractors out. If they send me nothing ever, that's fine. At least hopefully I can help them out if they're in a similar situation with their patients.
I would think if you're coming out too, you could hire a firm, especially if you're like the introvert, you don't want to deal with social media or whatever. You could hire a firm that your goal is to recruit other chiropractors to send films to you. I'm sure there's plenty of people that would love to take your money and do some social media and some Google and whatever to cultivate that for you. Just a little bit of effort and a little bit of time. They'll get you busy.
Yeah, I should do that, huh? I'll operate under a pseudonym. Oh, I'm at the new DACBR here,
No, you got the experience. You don't want no rookie. You want the seasoned vet.
I would charge a new DACBR, and I would operate their name and kind of pretend I'm them. I don't know. I wouldn't do that. It takes a lot of time, and I'd get all confused whose Facebook account I'm under. And
oh no, it was the wrong one.
Yeah, darn it, I said the wrong thing. But
sorry, Jason.
That's the big thing. I'd say, for new DACBRs, just force yourself to get out there. It is about forming relationships if you want to, do it my way. And let people get to know you. Try to not come off as being so. I was like this, I cared about why they took the X-rays, even though they wanted to send me business. I was like, did you really need to take this X-ray? And then they get pissed off and say, well, that's not what I'm here for. I'm like, well, so I felt like I was the expert. So I would tell them, oh, you actually don't need this X-ray. And
is C1 rotated left or not?
Yeah. We don't get too crazy with alignment things like that. We're more about, we do both, like a pathology type of report, but we also report a little bit more than the average MD on alignment issues, and we'll measure things too. That's cool. But yeah, I would say that, just form relationships, be a little more open to that side of the profession or the other side of where you are. So my philosophy is really just, if you're a chiropractor, I'm a chiropractor. We're all here to help patients, but if you have imaging, I'm pretty sure your education experience is less than mine. So I think probably best, I realize it probably won't work for all offices, but best case scenario, you should probably have all your x-rays, at least as a double check, send it to a DACBR.
What's your website?
Oh, it's clifftowdcdacbar.com. I can send you a link later if you want.
It'll definitely be in the show notes. I just wanted people to know about it real quick since we're winding down here. Before you go, one of the questions I like to ask is, and the reason because so many people get divorced or have a terrible family life because they're focused too much on business. Are you able to take any trips, vacations, etc., outside of coronavirus time frame? And then how do you keep the love alive with your spouse and kid and all that? What kind of wisdom do you have for us?
That's a great question. I mean, we could spend hours on that topic, Justin. I'm sure you could too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is tough. But like you mentioned, it's hard to keep family relationships, maintaining them when you're your own, business owner and you want to do things right for your business, but yet, of course, you want to do things right for your family too. And radiology is hard too because the residency was hard. I mean, I know a lot of people that started the residency that just could not finish it. Some people like me, actually, I got married during my residency and everyone said it was a mistake because I had to take so much time off for this and that. Eventually got divorced, by the way, and now I'm remarried. I will say there's one thing I think it was actually in one of your questions, if there's a book or something that I would recommend, for personal life.
Mm-hmm.
I probably read it too late, but there's this book called The 5 Love Languages.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, it was amazing when I read it at the time. And to be honest, you don't need to read the whole book if you just want.
There's plenty of cliff notes online.
Yeah, just know the 5 love languages. And my personal take is that guys typically have a couple, that we receive and give. But at least in my experience, it seems like women all tend to have 5. You have to satisfy all 5 at all times, in varying ratios or whatever. But yeah, and I didn't know, I had no idea about all these things and how different people were. So that's a good check for me, am I spending time with the spouse, my family? Am I buying gifts? Am I listening to them, talking to them? All those things. And then going back to kind of more in the professional realm, can I take vacations? Yeah, I am all about taking vacations, Justin. Now with digital, it is, and so we have I have a couple part-time staff. I have a few part-time associate DACBRs, but everyone works remotely. Everything comes into my office, and then they get shipped out depending on overflow and how much work I have to do. So it's very easy, much easier now than it was 15, 20 years ago. To send stuff out. The only issue is when we have a radiology meeting and everyone wants to go to the radiology meeting, and I'm like, who's not going and who wants to do some extra work? So that's a little bit hard, but yeah, it's not hard to take vacation. You just have to have the processes in place, just like running a clinical practice, right? Have properly trained staff. I would say it's almost easier with radiology because we don't have as much staff to deal with, and the DACBR mindset is much narrower than being in clinical practice. But we only have to deal with one little sliver of practice.
But you're not going to be on the slopes of Colorado and be like, hey, babe, I need to spend 3 hours reading some films. Y'all go have fun. I'll be back later to get some hot chocolate.
It's happened before in the past because a lot of docs have my cell phone. They just want a quick consult or something. And, I try to comply and accommodate, but sometimes I can't.
Sometimes there's extra fees involved.
Sometimes there are. Yeah.
Reach out anytime, but I'm just letting you know after 9 it's going to be expensive.
Just a little bit more.
You had the questions ahead of time. There's anything that you thought, man, he should have asked me this?
Yeah, I'd say, it's just, I'm not saying anything new, just, form relationships, take care of your family, take vacations. I strongly believe in taking care of yourself. Some people take it a little bit too far. Take care of yourselves a lot more than anyone else. But yeah, I mean, do that. And I think, and then do something that you love. Hopefully, to be honest, when I started the residency, I had no idea. I thought I was pretty good with radiology. I did pretty well in radiology classes in chiro school. I thought I knew it all, and I was like, oh, it's going to be a breeze going through this residency.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, Justin, it was 180. They're just like, nah, you know,
so many details.
Nothing. Yeah, and like they're like, oh, you see that Yoakum and Rowe? I hope you have it memorized because you don't need it anymore because there's like 20 more books that's over and above what Yoakum and Roa is that you'll have to memorize, in your 3 years. So I was like, what?
Uh-oh.
Whoops. Bad attitude, Cliff Tao.
That's wild, because what, it's 2 or is it 3 volumes?
Yoakum is 2 volumes. It's pretty good. It's very good for chiropractic, even more than what you need probably.
Do you ever feel like, what the crap, I don't get to use any of this stuff that I studied? Like, if you're doing 75% spine x-rays all day, you ever just feel like, man, geesh, all this stuff I used to know, I don't even get to put in practice anymore?
Yeah, I would say there's less of it in radiology, and we got a ton of it in chiro school, right? Like all that
for sure.
biochem and, I hated that stuff. So with a ton of useless knowledge that we learned early in chiro school. And I have a ton of useless knowledge in radiology too, but I feel like it's not as useless as the stuff we did in chiro
every
school.
now and then you grasp something like, I don't quite remember the name of this, but Google will help me when I describe it. And be like, there it is.
There it is.
That's the word I was looking for. Okay, I remember that now.
Yeah, and it's so easy now with Google. I mean, that's my go-to. It's not perfect. I still have my books, and I'll refer to them every once in a while, but most of the time it's, how do I spell Chilaiditi? Chilaiditi syndrome. Okay, yeah, I'll just Google it. If I type it wrong, Google will correct me, ready in 0.32 seconds.
Why would they put that? I don't know, but they always do.
It's crazy. They always do, yeah.
Well, Dr. Chow, that was, to me, very educational and good to see what a day-to-day looks like, what the life looks like, the marketing, the business, and hopefully it inspires somebody to at least look into the program and to realize that they can make a living doing this and that there's more out there than just, I got to do rehab and muscle stim and adjust the spine all day. If that just sounds like a bore to somebody, or they just feel like they made a mistake but they're too far in debt to change course, there's another option. You can still be an introvert and make a living.
Yes, you can. Yeah, we actually, I just decided a couple years ago that I would not take any cases from patients directly. For a while, we would charge double if a patient came to us. I don't know how they found us, but they're like, "Hey, can you do a second opinion on these X-rays?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." It's double of what we charge from a chiro, and so we would charge double, but in the end, it's never worth it. It's never, because they have all these questions, and I can barely talk to them because I'm so used to talking to chiropractors in our language. And I have to change it. Like you do it all the time, probably with patients, but for me, it became so hard that I was like,
"Am I responsible to explain what the arthritis is and all this now?" Like I don't.
I kind of am, but I'm like, and I didn't want to charge them anymore. It sounded outrageous for me to charge them 3 or 4 or 5 times, and so I'd just be like, you got to go through your chiro. Go through your chiro, and we'll handle it that way. Yeah, you'll get a better deal. And I won't have to talk to you ever again. So
that's right. Well, like you said, the chiropractor is going to know how to explain whatever you wrote on that paper way better because they do it all the time.
Yeah, they do it all the time. So yeah. Doing clinical practice now it'd be so hard for me. It would be a nightmare, and patients would suffer for sure.
yeah. You just have to deliver anteriors all day. All right, that was a good one.
yeah, maybe that.
Well, again, I appreciate your time. Stay healthy, and I guess quarantine and wear a mask and whatever else they're recommending these days during this corona situation.
Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and hearing a little bit snippet from your things too. So this is very interesting too. So thanks again. It was a lot of fun.
Another great interview has ended. While you're on your phone, click that review button. Write up a nice review for me. 5 stars if you could. As everyone says in the industry, it'll help other people to find us when we have enough rankings. Not to mention, I'll mention you and your review on an upcoming episode. If you follow me at all on Instagram, you only get one link. So I use a Linktree. And so it's a doctorsperspective.net/links with an S. And that's going to give you everything you need to know. The top episodes of 2017 and 2018, the podiatry series, dentist, acupuncture series, holiday 2017, financial series, how to write a review, how to support the show like buying a cup of coffee, getting swag like t-shirts, the Today's Choices Tomorrow's Health book, that's the blueprints for better health, exercise, picking food correctly, and financial, and then of course bundle packs, which can get you the no needle acupuncture book for 40 common conditions, including the electric acupuncture pin at a great deal. The resources page has some of the products that I like. It's affiliate style, so if you buy something from them, I get a piece of that. Just like on the show notes pages, if you buy a book from clicking that link, I get a small piece of that as well. So I really appreciate that. Things like Screencast-O-Matic, Pure VPN, Missing Letter, JLab speakers, Prolone, Edge, or Hawk grips. Once again, if you do need any coaching on how to improve some of your blood work, drop weight, and the Prolone diet, fast mimicking diet, 5-day plan, let me know. As well as if you just need some coaching, whether it's health, whether it's marketing, whether you need some practice growth, etc. Reach out. Facebook, Justin Trosclair, MCC. Of course, at a doctorsperspective.net on the top right, you got all the social media icons that you can imagine. Click your favorite and reach out. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please tell a friend, pass it along. You can go to .net/listen. It's just that easy. It'll open up right in your app. And don't forget, I appreciate you. Listen, critically think, and integrate. See you on the mini-sodes on Thursdays and Saturdays. Hope you're enjoying those. I'm definitely having fun summarizing these podcasts in less than 10 minutes for you. You get the nuggets without having to waste your time. Have a great week.
A doctor's perspective.